The Sahara Desert is often described as a void, a vast, lifeless expanse of sand stretching beyond the horizon, hostile to life and untouched by time. From above, it looks endless and empty, as if nothing has ever existed there except heat, wind, and silence. But this image is a lie, a carefully repeated assumption that collapses the moment we look beneath the surface, because the Sahara was never truly empty. Long before it became the largest hot desert on Earth, the Sahara was green, not metaphorically green, but alive in a way that now feels impossible to imagine. Rivers once carved paths through the land. Massive lakes reflected the sky. Grasslands stretched for hundreds of miles. Animals migrated freely. Humans settled, built, and thrived, and somewhere in that forgotten world, a city rose. This is not a myth. This is not folklore. This is not speculation pulled from imagination. It is a story pieced together from satellites, radar scans, climate data, ancient art, and fragments of history that survived erasure. A story that begins not with discovery, but with an anomaly, something that did not belong where it was found. In the early years of advanced satellite mapping, researchers began analyzing the Sahara using tools designed to see through obstacles. Synthetic aperture radar, infrared imaging, ground-penetrating technology, these systems were originally developed for military surveillance and geological analysis, not archaeology. Yet what they revealed shocked everyone who saw the data. Beneath hundreds of feet of sand, the satellites detected straight lines, not curved, not fractured, not random, straight. They intersected at angles too precise to be natural. They formed grids, circles, rectangular enclosures, long corridors stretching across buried terrain, shapes that mirrored urban planning rather than geology. At first, scientists hesitated. The Sahara is filled with natural formations, ancient riverbeds, hardened dunes, rock fractures. Misinterpretation is common. But these patterns repeated themselves across multiple scans, taken years apart using different technologies. They were still there, unchanged, unmoving, buried. The deeper analysts looked, the clearer the picture became. These were foundations, structural outlines, large-scale constructions beneath the sand. Something enormous had once stood here and had been swallowed whole. The Sahara, it turns out, is not just a desert, it is a tomb. Thousands of years ago, during what scientists call the African humid period, the Sahara was transformed by rainfall. Monsoon systems shifted northward, bringing consistent precipitation to regions that are now arid. Rivers flowed where dunes now stand. Some of the largest lakes in human history formed across North Africa. One of them, Lake Megachad, was larger than all of today's Great Lakes combined. This environment supported large human populations. Evidence of this survival still exists, etched into stone and hidden in caves. Across the Sahara, archaeologists have discovered rock art depicting scenes that feel almost surreal today. Hippos wallowing in water, crocodiles gliding through rivers, cattle grazing in fields, humans fishing, hunting, traveling by boat. These images are not symbolic. They are records. They tell us people lived here, not briefly, not temporarily, but long enough to build culture, art, and community, long enough to require organization. And organization leads to cities. As climate conditions stabilized, populations grew. Nomadic groups began to settle. Settlements became permanent. Infrastructure emerged. Paths, storage areas, shelters. Over generations, these settlements expanded. Eventually, something larger took shape. What the satellite data suggests is not a loose collection of dwellings, but a planned urban environment. The buried structures appear layered, older foundations beneath newer ones, indicating long-term habitation. Roads or corridors connect different zones. Some areas appear residential. Others are massive open spaces that suggest communal or administrative functions. This was not survival living. This was civilization. The scale is what disturbs researchers the most. Estimates based on radar penetration suggest the buried area extends for miles. If confirmed, this city would rival early urban centers thought to be among humanity's first, places like Mesopotamia or the Nile Valley. Yet unlike those civilizations, this one vanished so completely that it left no written legacy, no monuments standing above ground, no inscriptions in museums, no names in textbooks, only shadows beneath the sand. And that raises an uncomfortable question. How many other civilizations have existed, only to be erased before history could record them? Mainstream historical timelines are built on what survives. Stone tablets, ruins, written language, but survival is not guaranteed. Climate does not negotiate. Nature does not preserve equally. The Sahara did not gradually dry out out over tens of thousands of years. Evidence suggests a rapid transition, a sudden collapse of rainfall patterns. Within a few centuries, possibly even decades, green land turned to dust. Rivers disappeared. Lakes evaporated. Vegetation died. Winds intensified. Sandstorms grew stronger and more frequent, stripping soil and burying whatever stood in their path. A city caught in this transformation would not have had time to adapt. Imagine generations who had never known true scarcity suddenly facing the collapse of water sources. Imagine walls built to last centuries being overwhelmed by advancing dunes. Imagine a population forced to choose between abandoning everything or being buried with it. Some likely fled east toward the Nile. Others may have moved south, but not everyone escaped. The satellite scans suggest areas where buildings collapsed inward rather than being dismantled. This implies abandonment under pressure, not planned migration. Roofs caved in, walls fell, structures were left intact enough to be detected thousands of years later. This city did not slowly decay, it was overwhelmed. What makes this discovery even more controversial is how little public attention it has received. While fragments of this research exist in academic papers and conference presentations, there has been no major excavation, no global announcement, no official naming of the site. Why? Part of the answer lies in logistics. Excavating beneath deep desert sand is expensive, dangerous, and technically complex. Shifting dunes can collapse trenches. Extreme temperatures limit work hours. Remote locations make supply and safety difficult. But there is another layer: political boundaries. The Sahara spans multiple countries. Any large-scale excavation requires international cooperation, permits, funding, and agreement on ownership of findings. Disputes over cultural heritage, land rights, and historical narratives complicate everything. And then there is reputation. If confirmed, this city would disrupt accepted models of early civilization. It would suggest advanced social organization outside known cradles of development. It would raise questions about what else we have missed and what else lies buried. Science is cautious by nature. Paradigm shifts are slow. Evidence must be overwhelming before consensus changes. Until then, anomalies often remain anomalies. But silence does not mean absence. The more data is analyzed, the more connections appear. Ancient Egyptian texts speak vaguely of Western lands that once flourished and were later lost. Greek historians reference powerful societies beyond the desert. African oral traditions tell of cities swallowed by sand, places where the earth itself turned hostile. These stories were long dismissed as metaphor. Now they feel uncomfortably literal. The Sahara's sand is not just sediment, it is memory made physical, layer upon layer of history compressed into silence. Every dune is a cover, every buried wall a sentence erased, and the city beneath it waits. What was its name? Who built it? How advanced was it? These questions remain unanswered, not because evidence is absent, but because it is inaccessible. Yet technology continues to improve. Radar grows sharper, imaging grows deeper. Each year, more of the desert is mapped, not by footsteps, but by signals that pass through sand and stone alike. And what those signals suggest is unsettling. The city under the Sahara may not be alone. Patterns indicate multiple buried sites, possibly connected by ancient routes that once followed rivers now gone. If true, this city may have been part of a network, a regional civilization erased in one catastrophic environmental shift, a civilization that history forgot, not because it was insignificant, but because it was unlucky. As the sand continues to move, it does not destroy what lies beneath. It protects it, preserves it, locks it away, which means one thing is certain: the Sahara is not finished telling its story. This is only the beginning. If the Sahara's buried city were only a collection of collapsed homes, it might already have been dismissed as another forgotten settlement, swallowed by climate change. But what makes this discovery deeply unsettling is not simply that something exists beneath the sand, it is what appears to exist. As radar data improved, researchers began identifying anomalies that could not be explained by primitive construction methods. Some underground formations display uniform wall thicknesses across long distances, suggesting standardized design. Others show symmetry so precise that natural erosion cannot account for it. In certain zones, structures appear layered vertically, implying multiple construction phases over long periods of time. This means the city was not temporary, it was not experimental, it was refined. Something built here, and something was lost. The sand remembers. At some point, the Sahara stopped being a place of life. The rains faded, the rivers thinned, vegetation vanished. What was once green turned hostile, then uninhabitable. For the people people of the buried city, this change would not have happened overnight. It would have unfolded across generations, slow enough to be misunderstood, fast enough to be deadly. As water sources failed, the city would have fractured. Some inhabitants likely migrated toward the Nile. Others moved west or south, following fading trade routes and seasonal rains. Those who stayed would have faced starvation, social collapse, and eventual abandonment. And when the last people left, the desert moved in. Sand does not destroy like fire or water. It suffocates quietly. It fills doorways, buries walls, erases paths. Within centuries, the city would have vanished completely from sight. Without monuments piercing the sky, without stone towers or pyramids to mark its existence, it disappeared without a trace. By the time later civilizations rose, the land was already hostile. No one built on top of the city. No one reused its stones. The desert sealed it perfectly. And with that sealing came forgetting. No legends survived intact. No myths clearly described it. Even oral memory failed. Unlike flood myths or war stories, drought leaves no dramatic ending, only absence. When people leave slowly, they do not become legends. They become silence. That silence lasted thousands of years, until technology began to see what human eyes could not. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, and climate modeling have now converged on the same conclusion. The Sahara was not always empty, and it was not marginal. It was central. It hosted societies that adapted to a radically different environment, built infrastructure, and organized life on a scale that contradicts everything modern history assumes about early human development. And one day, whether through excavation, climate shifts, or undeniable evidence, the world will be forced to acknowledge what lies beneath the Sahara. Not a myth, not speculation, but a city that proves humanity's past is deeper, darker, and far more fragile than we ever imagined. The desert remembers what we forgot, and it always has.